She opened my office door with the HOA master key while my 10-year-old niece was still inside. The alert hit my phone mid-shift, a cold, mechanical voice saying, "Unauthorized access, child present." By the time I got home, the camera feed had already captured every frame: her face, her clipboard, her smug little smirk as if she owned the place. My name's Michael Vance, and if you've ever had to defend your home from people pretending to protect it, you'll understand what came next. I'm a cyber forensics consultant. I deal in data, in digital fingerprints, in things that don't lie. My office isn't some prefab shed tossed together last month. My dad built it board by board before cancer took the strength from his hands. It's wired like a bunker, grounded like a chapel. After he died, it became my workspace, my sanctuary, the last piece of him that still hums with purpose. That day, my niece Samantha was sitting at my desk drawing spaceships. She calls the office Uncle Mike's Starship. She thinks I fight bad guys in there. I guess she was right. When the footage came through, I froze. The HOA president, Nan Ellsworth, had used the master key to unlock my private office. No knock, no call, no notice. She stepped inside, clipboard raised like a badge, inspecting the room as if she was the law. My motion sensors caught everything, her pacing, her muttering about unapproved materials, and then the sound that still makes my stomach twist, the crack of her heel on the engraved tile at the door. My father's tile. He'd carved into it the words, "We build, we protect, we stay." I didn't say anything when she saw me standing there through the camera, arms crossed. I didn't need to. The red recording light above the door said enough. When my brother, Lieutenant Aaron Vance, arrived still in uniform, he didn't knock either. "She used the HOA key," he said flatly. "That's not a fine, Mike. That's unlawful entry." I nodded, jaw tight. "And I've got her on camera twice now." He stared at me, cop and brother overlapping in one look. "You filing it?" "Not yet," I said. "I want to see how deep it goes." Because Nan wasn't acting alone. No one abuses power this confidently without backup. The HOA had been tightening its grip for months. Petty fines for porch lights, letters about unsightly recycling bins, even one accusing Samantha's chalk drawings of graffiti. I'd brushed them off before thinking, maybe I'm overreacting. But the minute she stepped on that tile, I knew this wasn't about rules. It was about control. I started asking around quietly. Ruthie, 2 doors down, fined for noxious weeds when she could barely breathe with her oxygen tank. Dan and Marcus hit for an unapproved patio shade even though they'd submitted plans. Lena across the street fined $300 because her teenage son parked in the cul-de-sac for 3 hours on a Sunday. Different homes, same signature. N. Ellsworth. I logged everything: dates, amounts, phrases. The same bureaucratic tone, the same template letters, cold and robotic. It wasn't management, it was manipulation. Still, there was a night I almost gave up. I sat in my office staring at that broken tile, wondering if I was the problem. Maybe I was the difficult neighbor, the paranoid one, the guy who refuses to play along. Maybe I should just fix the damn porch lights, repaint the fence, comply. That's what they want, right? Compliance? Peace bought by silence. But then Samantha walked in barefoot, holding a drawing of me at the desk with the words, "Uncle Mike saves the neighborhood," scribbled in marker. I couldn't look at her and quit. So I stopped thinking like a homeowner and started thinking like a forensic analyst. Late one night, I logged into the HOA's online portal. Hidden under a pile of generic PDFs was a new feature, a live compliance map. It showed every home in the neighborhood color-coded for violations. My house flashed red. Unapproved structure. But I knew it was permitted. I pulled up the browser's code inspector, traced the request path, and there it was, a manual modification tag dated 3 weeks ago. Someone had gone into the system and changed my status from approved to pending review. The user ID N. Ellsworth. I printed the logs, the screenshots, everything. Then I slipped the folder into Ruthie's mailbox and Dan's and Marcus's. By the next morning, my phone was buzzing non-stop. "Mike," Ruthie whispered, voice trembling. "They changed mine too." That's when I realized this wasn't random. It was systemic. They were falsifying data to create violations. And I could prove it. The next HOA meeting was held at the community center. The fluorescent lights buzzed like flies as neighbors shuffled in with their grievances. Nan sat at the front, hair-sprayed, stiff clipboard perfectly aligned with her binder. "Let's begin with old business," she said, pretending nothing had happened. When she mentioned Lot 47B, unauthorized structure, I raised my hand. "You mean the one you broke into last week?" The room went silent. "You entered my locked property while my 10-year-old niece was inside." Nan's smile didn't even twitch. "You can't prove that." "Oh, I can," I said. "And I will." Behind her, Diane Cardell, the board treasurer, flinched. She didn't look at me, but she didn't look at Nan either. That was the first crack in the armor. A few nights later, I caught Diane alone at the library. "You saw the footage," I said quietly. "You know what she did was wrong." She hesitated, eyes red-rimmed. "They don't ask, Michael. They just inform." I didn't know she'd go that far. "You're outnumbered," I told her, "but you're not alone." 2 days later, another letter showed up on my door. Final compliance warning. They gave me 14 days to dismantle the office my father built. That was their mistake. I walked the perimeter that night, tracing the stone path Dad had laid. I could almost hear him say, "The system always leaves a trail." Back inside, I opened the HOA portal again. This time, I didn't just check my file. I ran a pattern search across the entire compliance database. 14 homes flagged, 11 with altered permit statuses, every single one linked to Nayen's admin account. She wasn't enforcing policy, she was manufacturing violations. I called Aaron. If an official changes records to justify fines, I asked, "What's that called?" He didn't even pause. "Fraud. Maybe racketeering. Depends how organized it is." "Oh," I said. "It's organized." The next morning I dropped another folder on Diane's desk. Names, timestamps, forged entries. "You said you didn't know I told her." "Now you do." She looked at the papers like they might burn her fingers. "They'll destroy me if I talk." "No," I said. "They'll destroy this neighborhood. You get to decide which side you're on." I didn't see her again for 3 days. Then an email hit my inbox. Subject: "We need to talk." When we met, she looked hollowed out but resolute. She slid a USB drive across the table. Everything from the last 6 months' emails, meeting minutes, internal edits. Her voice cracked. "They used my signature to authorize it all." "Then let's use it to bring them down," I said. I spent the night compiling evidence logs, correspondence, altered records into a single map of corruption. By dawn, I had what I needed: digital proof, verified signatures, unaltered timestamps, enough to expose an empire built on fake fines. But facts alone don't topple tyrants. Perception does. So I built a website, hazelit.net. Simple layout, clean visuals, one headline: "This isn't policy enforcement, it's systemic abuse." I didn't post names, just data and patterns. I slipped QR codes into mailboxes, flyers, inviting neighbors to a community tech night, free home security tips. They came. Oh, they came. The library filled with tired, angry faces. I started simple Wi-Fi safety password strength. Then I shifted slides. Now I said, "Let's talk about who really has access to your data." The next slide showed the compliance heat map. Homes blinking red fines following weeks later. Another slide: permit approvals versus modification dates. Gasps, murmurs. Then I showed them how easy it was. One line of code, one click, and a house that was approved turned non-compliant. Just like that. I didn't say her name. I didn't need to. People were already whispering it. Marcus, one of the residents, stood up. "Are you saying we've been paying fake fines?" "I'm saying it's possible most of you have been flagged by a system that violates its own bylaws," I said. "And the board knows it." Phones came out. Screens glowed with QR codes scanning to my site. Within minutes, the audit page was live in half the room. I'd lit the fuse. That night, Marcus called me. "We're not waiting for the next meeting. We're calling an emergency session. Homeowner Clause 6.3. And just like that, the neighborhood stopped whispering and started roaring. The next evening, the community center was packed. Folding chairs scraped the floor, air buzzing with tension. Nayen walked in wearing a tailored blazer, her HOA pin gleaming like a badge of royalty. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "This unsanctioned assembly will be noted for the record," she began. Marcus stood. "We've met quorum. 73 signatures. This is an official homeowner session." The room erupted in low murmurs of agreement. I stepped to the projector plugged in my drive. "Let's skip the formalities," I said. "We've all had enough of those taped to our doors. The first slide heat map. The second fake timestamps. The third admin logs, each one signed by N. Ellsworth." Nayan rose from her seat, voice sharp. "These are unverified accusations." "They came from your system," I said calmly. "Pulled directly from your own portal. Tamper-proof logs. And if you think I'm bluffing," I held up a signed statement, "your own treasurer confirms it." All eyes turned to Diane. She stood, voice steady now. "I approved system updates I didn't understand. I trusted the wrong people. But I've reviewed the logs. I've seen the patterns. And I can't stay silent anymore." Nayan's face went pale. "You don't know what you're saying." "Yes, I do," Diane said. "And so does the city inspector. I sent them everything." The silence that followed was electric. Then Marcus spoke motion for vote of no confidence in the current HOA president. Hands shot up, dozens. Then nearly everyone. Out of 82 residents, 79 voted for removal. 2 abstained. One, Nayan, didn't even vote for herself. She stood stiffly, gathered her binder, and walked toward the door. But just as she reached it, Aaron stepped inside in uniform. He didn't say a word. He didn't have to. The look on his face told her this wasn't over. The Queen of Compliance walked out of her own kingdom, and the room exhaled. I turned back to the crowd, my voice low. "They called my father's workshop non-conforming, said it disrupted the visual harmony. But what it really did was remind them they couldn't control everything they didn't build." Neighbors began speaking. Ruthie about her garden, Marcus about their shade sale, Lena about her son's truck. Story after story of fear and fines and silence. And for the first time, the silence broke. Diane stepped forward. "The board has operated in darkness for too long. That ends tonight. We'll form a resident committee to review every violation from the past year." Applause swelled. Real applause, raw and tired and free. I handed her a hard drive. "Everything's on their logs, timestamps, unedited records. Use it." She looked at it like it weighed 1,000 pounds. "It's not about revenge," she whispered. "It's about restoration." And that's where I ended my fight. Not with shouting, not with victory speeches, just the truth finally out in the open, breathing fresh air for the first time. You see, they can rewrite policies, falsify data, threaten your peace, but they can't rewrite what's real. And if you ever find yourself standing alone against a system built to break you, remember this. Justice doesn't start with power. It starts with one person refusing to stay quiet.